Hey, welcome to JG3 Reviews. I'm James, and I review fountain pens. And I have one today that from a company I've not reviewed here on my YouTube channel before, and this is the Diplomat Magnum Soft Touch. Soft Touch because it's got a matte finish, and I guess matte equals soft. I don't know, but that's what it's called. Anyway, this is an interesting little pen in the Diplomat line, and I'm going to share with you today some things I like about it, a little bit of trouble that I've had with it that I don't know that is necessarily that widespread, and whether or not I think this is a recommended pen or a recommendable pen. So we're going to turn the camera around, get a closer look at the pen's style and its build and some things, and then we'll do a writing test, and then I'll give you my recommendation at the very end. Let's turn the camera around and take a closer look. Okay, so this is the Diplomat Magnum, sometimes called the Diplomat Magnum Soft Touch because of that matte finish. It's a resin pen, and I think the blue on this pen is really nice. I like the satin finish of the metal clip, and this is plastic up here, but I think it matches that metal clip pretty well. It has a nice finial on top of the cap that says product in Germany, Diplomat, and the only fit and finish issue I've had with this pen, well, there are two actually. There's this one. I had to straighten this because it drove me nuts that it was really crooked, and it seems like to me if you're going to have a horizontal finial, it needs to be horizontal to the clip, but that's just my own pickiness, I suppose. But I did fix that, and so I don't care. It was fixable. The pen itself, again, is resin, very light, 14 grams when it's fully assembled. 7 grams for the barrel, 7 for the cap. Just a really, really light pen, light resin pen. I'll just open it up for you here. You'll notice it does, before I do that, it does have the 2 ink windows here for seeing how much ink that you have left. And so that can be handy if you're having a long day of writing and you're afraid you might run out of ink. Some people do write that much. This has a medium nib, and this one is also a satin finish. And let me get that a little bit closer there for you, if I can get that to focus. There we go. This nib is just a steel nib. I do find that it seems, I can't tell if it's the fit into the pen because of the issue that I'll talk to you about in a second, or if it's the metal. It seems a little springy, and I would say it's a little too springy sometimes. I think it's a little bit easy to bend that. It's not a flex nib, and so you don't really want to be flexing it. It could damage that nib, especially with that as much spring as it seems to have. And so that's one concern I have. That metal is not as tough as a lot of other steel nibs that I have in pens. But it does write nicely. I like the medium nib on this one. But not a lot to talk about here on the style. It's just a simply designed resin pen, and it's definitely an everyday carry sort of a pen. It's not, you wouldn't wear this to a black tie event or anything like that. But, you know, it's a nice everyday pen to throw in your briefcase, your backpack, your laptop bag, whatever it is that you got. You will notice I keep spinning this. That's partly because I'm fidgety and partly because this pen is way too easily spinnable. This is a very tightly fit, just a normal friction cap, snap cap. But then once it is snapped, boy, it really is just, to quote my grandmother, it's kind of loosey-goosey. And it's not a problem. It's just kind of weird. And so you can actually shake this pen enough that the cap will start sliding around a little bit. And I assume that's just a design thing. I would imagine they're all that way. I don't think it's a flaw in this particular pen. Not necessarily a feature either, but I don't think so much a flaw. So let's, well, you know, before I go to the writing test, let me say this does have sections that mirror the sections on the ergonomic grip, but that's just purely aesthetic. As far as the looks of the pen, I like it. It's okay. It's not anything to write home about, but it's a neat pen. The design's been around for, I think, 2 or 3 decades, and so it's certainly a proven design, I guess. But it's just, would consider this an everyday carry sort of a pen. Let's see how it writes. Okay, so let's try this pen and see just how it writes. That a little loose from when I put it on earlier. For me, I'm going to hold it back a little bit further. That grip section is a little bit thinner than I like. Prefer at this point pens with a little bit thicker grip. This is the Diplomat Magnum again. You probably know that by now in the video. Not a big surprise. This one has a medium nib, and I like the thickness of this. It's to the finer side of medium. Some German medium nibs, in my experience, write a bit thicker. Kaweco does that, and it's not a bad thing. They just write a little thicker. This one's a little bit finer than that, and I like how it writes overall. I am having something of an issue with this pen though, and I don't know if I'll be able to show it to you. Whether it's going to act up while I'm writing here or not. But I find that after I've been writing with it for a few minutes, it starts to do hard starts. Of course, it's not going to do it for you here. It's like taking your car to the mechanic. There you go, if you like the ink smear test. That for me is a little annoying, because, for example, yesterday I was using it around the office and I was writing quite a few notes, and by the time I got to about here on the page, about halfway down, it was like every capital letter on that downstroke it would miss. And it was really, to be honest, I'm going to do some capital letters to see if I can make it happen here on if I can remember my alphabet. See, there's a missing stroke. And at first I thought, well, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm not just holding it quite right. There you go again. There, see, now you see exactly what I'm talking about. And I bet if I flip this over, I'll see what I saw yesterday. And I do. What happens is this nib just starts to slide to one side of the feed. And so then, of course, it gets a little bit starved for ink. And I've never had this happen. And I've Googled it, trying to find other users, not even of just this pen, but any pen. And Google has not been a lot of help. I'm not getting what I'm looking for in the search results. So if you have ever had this problem with a fountain pen where the nib just drifts, because it feels like it's in the pen well enough, when you try to adjust it, you can't even adjust it that easily. I'm just having that problem. I even looked for disassembly of the Diplomat Magnum so I could look at it and see if maybe it's a small problem there. I couldn't even find much of where people had taken these apart. So that's my problem. It's a new pen to me, and a new pen. So I think I'm probably going to contact Diplomat and see, and that'll be a good test of their customer service. And I may do a real short video once I have some results, and of course that could take a while, just to share with you what I find out. But that's the only issue I've had, and I can kind of just nudge it back that way, and then usually it will be fine again, see? But who wants to stop every few lines and do that? So that's actually the downside to me of my particular pen. Now, the fact that I can't find very many results on problems with the pen and no results with this exact problem tells me it's probably a fluke. It's probably just my pen, and I should follow up on the warranty because the pen comes with a warranty. So I'm not going to just outright say, no, you shouldn't use this pen. What I am going to say is that unfortunately for me, I've gotten one with a nib that has a mind of its own and tries to go over to the side. I've never had that happen with a pen before, so that's something that I've never dealt with. Not quite sure exactly how to fix that, so I'll probably let Diplomat fix that. So there is that. Okay, so would I recommend the Diplomat Magnum? I think the problem that I have with the nib is probably an isolated problem. I don't see people saying, that my nib drifts side to side in various reviews on the seller's site or elsewhere that when I was Googling the problem. I couldn't find a lot of people that had the problem. Usually if it's widespread, you find lots of people complaining about that particular problem. And if you've had it, please let us know in the comments below. But would I recommend it? At full price, no. I don't think I would. That might seem unusual. I recommend most of the pens I buy, but most of the time, I think the value proposition is really quite good. In this case, well, for one, I'm really not a fan of $25 plastic pens. I don't own a Lamy Safari. And part of the reason is that, one, can't stand the paperclip thing on the clip. I just think it's big and obnoxious. But two, I think it's, maybe if it was a demonstrator, maybe. But in general, plastic pens, no. Not crazy high prices for that. And I think at full price, this is not crazy high, but I think it's high. At half price, I got it at half price, well, then I started to change my mind, and I was really fully prepared to be very impressed by this pen. And honestly, I think if the nib had worked flawlessly, like it does on so many $2 pens, then I would absolutely recommend this pen, and I would have been very, very pleased with it. The design is not, knock your socks off cool or anything like that, but I like the design. It's fine. I like the satin finish on the clip and the top of the cap. I like the finial. I like those things about it. I don't mind the way it feels in hand, although it's not my favorite pen in that way. But at half price, if you can find it, and I don't think you'll have the problem I had with mine, then I would recommend it. It's an okay pen. There are probably better pens to be had, so I would shop around. If you just really fall in love with the design, then yeah, half price, go get it. Full price, I'm going to put it on my not recommend list. And even though I like the pen overall, I like the way it writes, and if I can get that nib sorted, maybe it would even change my whole impression, but probably not at full price still. You see what I mean? So there you are. That's the Diplomat Magnum. Not a bad pen. Don't take me wrong. It's not a bad pen. But I think probably the competition is very stiff right now in the same class, and that makes this one kind of middle of the pack. Okay? Thank you for watching. Be sure and like and subscribe and click that bell so that you can be notified whenever new videos come out. God bless you and have a great week.